But whatever I think whatever I think is important, of course, I will try to share as much as possible. And so one of the things that I wanted to share was basically one could say dedication. We have the habit of, it's a good habit, of course, a very nice habit, that to say if you do something good, if you do something that is challenging, that we say, I did it for him, I did it for her, I did it for you, and so on. That's very, very nice, actually. But nevertheless, we could somehow have we could fall into a bit of a bother if we say, I practice this for the sake of our lineage, for the sake of Buddhism, or for the sake of the Buddhas, and so on. This would become, after some times, a nuisance. And slowly, this nuisance could turn into something uncomfortable, and it could turn into a problem. And so therefore, what I'm trying to say is that the purpose of practicing, or purpose of living a Buddhist way of life in general, and then of course particularly this aspiration, the goal is simple, and it's already laid out very plainly, that it is for the sake of all sentient beings, and that's it. It is not for the Buddhas, it is not for the Bodhisattvas, it's not for the Arhats. They don't need it. And so therefore, when we do this, or when we live this Buddhist way of life, we are not doing it to get a favor from them, or to ask a favor from them. We are also not doing it out of fear that if you don't do it, that although because they are compassionate, they will not punish us, but at least maybe they will frown upon us, or maybe they will sneer, or maybe they will just lose hope, and so on. And so in that respect, we don't have to worry at all. They completely understand that being born in this conditioned world, there are limits. But what makes it beautiful, what makes it amazing, what becomes a story, what becomes, one could say, if you prefer, a legend or so on, is that somehow you went beyond this limitation, or human limitation. And so that's, of course, in terms of from the romantic aspect of things, that's what's beautiful. But beside that, the real reason why we live a Buddhist way of life is because it's very unaltered, it's very natural. Or how do I say it? It's in accordance with the reality. And so therefore, for example, that's just an example, of course. We always use examples like the sun and the moon and the stars and the space, by saying that, for example, the sun shines without effort. The sun's warmth touches all living plants and gives them the UV ray that they need, or in other words, the life-giving energy that they need, without effort, without any effort, not for a second, not for a nanosecond. The sun has any intention of thinking, okay, at this exact time, at that particular region of the world, I have to rise, and then, basically like scheduling the whole thing. It doesn't do that. It just shines. It just provides the warmth. That's it. It rises, it does its thing, and it sets. And so therefore, of course, that's just an example. It's not saying that we have to become the sun or the stars and so on. It's just an example. And in the same way, we ourselves, the way to practice this Buddha Dharma, or the way to live this Buddhist way of life, has to be something similar to that. Of course, in the initial period, because of our, let's say, jumbled up usage of concepts, we feel that we need to be taught, we need to be educated, we need to be straightened out, and so on. But that's only for the beginning. At some point, when you, sooner rather than later, of course, because one doesn't, nobody wants to be dependent on something or someone for too long. It's not good for them, it's not good for you. So sooner rather than later, then as you, either if you have too orderly a concept, then hopefully the spiritual guides will be able to make it chaotic so that you see the truth. Or the usual way, that your concepts are so chaotic that the teacher needs to come, or the spiritual guide needs to put them into order so that you will see the truth, or you will see the other half. So once you have seen that, then the way you carry, or the way you practice your, or where you live your Buddhist way of life, has to be, or would be, or will be in accordance with the reality, like the sun. And so therefore, what it says is that it's not a mission. There is a temporary, there are temporary set goals, but beyond that, there is no ultimate goal at all, like having to save all sentient beings, having to please the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of 10 directions. None at all. And so this is very important for us to realize from the beginning, so that even though we may not have arrived at that point, or we may not have gained that composure or flexibility, it's good to be aware of, at least, even if it's conceptually. So therefore, never practice this path out of fear or out of doubt. And as I said, like the sun, or better yet, one of the quotes that I always used to use from Shantideva, what it says in Tibetan, that whatever you put your energy into or effort into, that you do it with joy, with enthusiasm. And that was a description of the paramita, or the perfection of effort. And this is a beautiful line, I feel, and I hope it's the same to you, to all of you, that whatever you do, of course, in the beginning, you have to somehow do something or find whatever it is that you like to do. Then, of course, we all wish and assume that practice such as this aspiration prayer is something that we like to do. Nevertheless, if we find joy in what we do, then it will never ever seem like an effort. No matter if it's going to take eons to achieve something, it won't even matter, to a point where one will wish that it will go on forever. And so therefore, finding the joy is extremely important. In Tibetan, another way of describing that is by saying that you have to see the quality, you have to see the benefit. And so therefore, if we look at, or if we examine the aspiration practice, there's every reason, to find joy. As I said in the beginning, it doesn't require any real effort. You don't have to break sweats or anything, do something, laborious. But nevertheless, the dedication of your time and energy will cultivate what we are all looking for: compassion and wisdom. And so therefore, there is every reason to feel encouraged, to feel enthusiastic to practice.